I never thought that I would read about a man who fought in World War II, refused to carry a weapon, go into fierce battles to save dozens of lives, and be awarded the Medal of Honor. Today we are going to be talking about Desmond Doss, a combat medic in the U.S. Army, 77th Infantry Division. But first, we got to touch a little bit on the early life. Doss was born February 7th, 1919 in Lynchburg, Virginia. Doss had a very religious upbringing, and the Ten Commandments would play a huge part in his life, so make sure to keep that in the back of your head for this story. Another important part of Doss's youth was that his dad and uncle were involved in a verbal argument. Things went south. His dad pulled out a gun and was going to actually kill Doss's uncle. The mother intervened. She was able to get the weapon away from Doss's father, and then she gave the weapon to Doss to go and hide before the police arrived. Doss was able to go, hide the weapon, and return just in time to see his dad being hauled off to jail. Fast forward to 1942, Doss would be drafted to the Army. Doss was offered a draft deferment because he worked at a shipyard, but he declined it. He said it was an honor to serve God and country. From there, he would be sent to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for training. It was also at this training that he would be tested to his limits. He made it clear from day one that he wasn't going to carry a firearm and he wanted to be a medic. However, the Army made it clear that he didn't tell them what to do, they told him what to do. And since he refused to carry a firearm, he would be labeled a conscientious objector. Now, Doss didn't like being labeled this. He viewed himself as a conscientious cooperator. You see, he wanted to serve his country. He just didn't want to take lives, and he wanted to keep his Sabbath day holy. In an attempt to pressure him into carrying a weapon, they wouldn't let him be a medic and assigned him to a rifle company. Doss never gave in. He refused to carry a gun. Now, the problem here, Doss was training with frontline infantry units. These guys were going into combat and they were preparing for some deadly battles. They thought it was crazy that Doss wouldn't be carrying a firearm. They viewed him as a coward and stated that he would be hiding behind religion. Some of the guys would curse him, others would make fun of him and call him Holy Joe because he would carry a small Bible in his front shirt pocket. Whenever he would lay down at night to say his prayers, they would throw boots and other items at him. And one of his fellow soldiers even threatened to kill him once they got overseas. His Sabbath day observance made him even more of a target. He took Saturdays off. He'd go into a nearby town, attend church, while all the other guys in the unit were back on base, training, doing their daily chores, and so on. And once he would return the next day, he would be given all of the unwanted jobs. And his captain at the time even went as far as to tell him that he wouldn't be getting any more Saturdays off, that he wasn't better than anyone else. And also further stated that if he continued to ask for Saturdays off, he would have him court-martialed. And to top it all off, he even stated that Doss was no good, and at the first chance he got, he was going to get rid of Doss. However, Doss didn't let this intimidate him. He continued to ask for his Saturdays off. Desmond's officers became even more frustrated with the continued unwillingness to carry a firearm and not working on Saturdays. They attempted to have him Section 8, or what you would refer to as unstable or unfit, to have him removed from the unit. After it was all said and done, he would return to being a medic. Same division, same regiment, and still with the same men that hated him. If anyone in the unit wanted their furlough or their time off, they had to do their firearms qualifications first. And when Doss went to go get his papers for his furlough, he was denied by Captain Cunningham, who called him out for not doing his firearms qualifications. Cunningham then gave Doss a direct order to take the firearm. And if he didn't take the firearm, he would be court-martialed. Luckily enough, another officer came in and told Cunningham that he didn't have to touch a firearm. However, Cunningham still refused to give Doss his leave. Later, Doss would be allowed back into the medical corps due to his dad contacting the War Service Division. The feelings his unit had for him wouldn't last very long, though, once they joined the war effort in the Pacific. They first went to Guam, and Doss got his chance to show them what he was made of. Time and time again, Doss would push through enemy fire to help take care of his wounded comrades. No gun, no will to kill, just his medical supplies and pure willpower to take care of his fellow soldiers. His commanding officer even warned him that pushing into oncoming fire to help the wounded could even cause his fellow soldiers to accidentally shoot him. His heroics here would earn him his first Bronze Star. Doss would earn his second Bronze Star in Leyte, Philippines, I think Leyte, something like that. Anyways, he would earn his second Bronze Star here for the exact same bravery. Time and time again, under enemy fire, no weapon, he was getting in there. He was helping his fellow soldiers, getting them to safety, bandaging them up without any care for his own life, just helping his fellow soldiers. Next, Okinawa. It is here that Doss would become a legend amongst his unit. There was an escarpment that would later become known as Hacksaw Ridge. Doss and his unit was tasked with taking it over. Americans climbed to the top and brutal fighting quickly took place. They faced heavy machine gun fire, artillery fire, and mortar fire. Casualties and injuries piled up quickly and U.S. troops had to retreat, leaving behind many wounded soldiers. This is where the story gets wild. Instead of climbing down to safety with the others, Doss stayed on top and one by one went and retrieved any soldier that he could find, dragged them back by himself, and lowered them down the ridge to safety. And it's not like Doss is some 6'7", 300-pound muscular man. He was about $150, just like his fellow soldiers, and he's dragging these guys hundreds of yards to safety. And then he come up with this double knot that he learned during basic training. He would attach them to the rope and lower them down the ridge by himself. Now, it's important to keep in mind here that the entire time he's running back in, he's under fire from the Japanese. There's mortars going off, there's artillery fire, there's machine gun fire, and he's going. And the entire time he's praying, please, Lord, just let me get one more. And one by one, he brought them back to the edge. It is estimated somewhere between 50 to 100. Doss said 50. His commanding officer at the time said 100. So they settled somewhere in the middle at 75 people that he saved on Hacksaw Ridge. Now, needless to say, at this point, none of his fellow soldiers had those same feelings of hatred toward him. They no longer viewed him as a coward for not wanting to carry his gun and hiding behind religion. He was known as one of the most brave soldiers on the field. They knew that as long as Doss was alive, if they were injured, no matter what the circumstances were, he was coming to save them. Eventually, Doss and his unit would take control of Hacksaw Ridge. However, one day they would accidentally walk upon a Japanese unit and intense hand-to-hand combat would take place. A grenade would land close by and injure Doss, putting 17 pieces of shrapnel into his legs. And Doss treated himself and waited for help. Eventually, help would arrive for Doss. They got him loaded up. They're dragging him out of there. They're under fire. In the process, Doss would look over and see a fellow soldier with a head wound. Doss would roll off there. He'd wanted them to stop to take him because he was more severely wounded than he was. That alone is just bravery beyond imagination. Keep in mind, he's already injured. He's hurting. Anybody in their right mind would want to get out of there, right? But instead of doing so, he's seen a fellow soldier who was more severely injured, and he decided to be left behind so that they could get him out of there. While waiting a second time, Doss would be shot by a Japanese sniper, shattering his arm. After this, Doss found a stock from a firearm, used it as a splint, and then crawled 300 yards to safety. From here, the war was over for Doss. He had sustained some pretty bad injuries and had to return stateside for treatment. On October 12, 1945, Desmond Doss was invited to the White House and awarded the Medal of Honor by then-President Harry Truman. In 1946, Doss was diagnosed with tuberculosis contracted from serving in Leyte. He underwent treatment for over 5 years, losing a lung and 5 ribs. He would eventually be discharged from the hospital in 1951 with 90% disability. After an overdose of antibiotics, it left him completely deaf in 1976. He would receive a cochlear implant in 1988 and regain some hearing. Doss would pass away on March 23, 2006. That's it. That's the story of Desmond Doss, a man who served his country during World War II without carrying a firearm and keeping his Sabbath day holy.